I wake up and it's really dark and I cannot move. And I go, what's going on? And I try to look around, and at the foot of my bed, I see this figure.
Sleep paralysis is when you wake up, but your body is unable to move. It's the area of the brain for motor coordination and muscle movement has not quite engaged, but you are awake and conscious. So it could be a pretty terrifying experience.
So as we go into dream sleep, the body is shut down in this physical incarceration. Why on earth would this happen? Well, from an evolutionary perspective, it's very simple. The brain paralyzes the body so that the mind can dream safely. However, sometimes as the brain is starting to rise back up to waking consciousness, the brain does not release the body from the paralysis. And those two things that normally would go in lockstep with each other become misaligned. We can't lift our eyelids, we can't move, we can't shout, we can't talk. Those signals aren't getting out, they're blocked. And that's why you remain locked down into that physical prison of sleep paralysis.
I try to kind of move, but nothing is working. I couldn't say anything, nothing comes out. And I realize it looks like a shape of a woman. And then its mouth starts to move. And when it starts speaking, this pink vapor comes out in the total darkness.
If we could just poll everyone here in this room, have you had sleep paralysis? It's that common. Because you know what makes REM sleep different than any other stage of sleep? You're paralyzed. And it's kind of a good thing, right? Because when you're having vivid dreams, you don't want to be, reenacting them, you know what I mean? That's kind of scary, not just for yourself, but what about your bed partner? And that could be a black eye right there.
Turns out that most alien abductions seem to be best explained by this thing called sleep paralysis. When you think about the stories of alien abductions, none of them typically happen during the day. When was the last time on the news you heard the story that a group of people were having an afternoon meeting around the boardroom table, and then all of a sudden you heard a sound and whoosh, Steve, sitting next to Joanne, was taken away by aliens? It never happens like that. Normally the story goes as follows. It was at night, I was asleep, and there was a sense of something in my room. There was a being, and they'd injected a paralyzing agent into me. So I couldn't shout, I couldn't fight back, I couldn't move. This is what we think of as sleep paralysis, and it seems to adequately explain most of those stories of alien abductions.
This pink vapor comes out in the total darkness, and it starts just floating in the air. And when I see that, I know that it's my ex-girlfriend. I just know.
When you have sleep paralysis, it kind of goes hand in hand with seeing some visual hallucinations. And not just like, hey, there's Tinkerbell inside the room. These are scary, scary things. There's a shadowy figure in the hallway or at the door, or a scary spider, or there's like a demon sitting on your chest. So people always ask me, why are we seeing these scary images? Well, it's because your brain wants your body to what? Move.
So dreams are really about bringing into consciousness aspects of ourselves and our experience that has either never been experienced or pushed out of consciousness as a result of it being unwelcome or distasteful, saying, hey, just sort of tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, how about take a look at this?
She is there to harm me in some way, and I get the sense of immense dread. And I try to move, and this pink vapor just keeps coming out of her mouth and floating in the air, and it starts to just kind of go all over my room and like floating above me. And then I wake up, and I can move again.
But it's nothing to be alarmed about. In fact, 25% of the population will experience this thing called sleep paralysis. In other words, it's about as common as hiccups. So are there some things that will increase the likelihood that you will experience this thing called sleep paralysis? Firstly, if you've had a few drinks, we also know that if you are sleep deprived, that can increase the likelihood of experiencing sleep paralysis as well. One final thing that can increase the likelihood of experiencing sleep paralysis is jet lag, because any circumstance that increases your sleep debt, the amount of sleep deprivation that you're carrying, is going to increase the probability of you experiencing those sleep paralysis events.
So when you're experiencing sleep paralysis, a way to break out of it is to tell yourself that you're in sleep paralysis. And by telling yourself that, you can actually begin to loosen it up and break yourself out of it.